I'd like to talk for a bit about specifically what changes when we commit to using a design thinking methodology. In order to do that, we need to discuss the way we treat the problem itself, as well as the kinds of solution we look for, and even the way we talk to each other. Let's start with who does the designing. Who gets to innovate? For me, the most obvious marker of the transition is the question of who is invited into the innovation conversation. In other words, who designs? In traditional approaches, innovation and design are seen as the domain of experts, policymakers, planners, and senior leaders. The rest of us, we're just expected to do the job we've designed to do in the way we've usually done it. But in this new world, the search for opportunities to innovate is everybody's job, and so everybody designs. Here, design is not primarily about the design of products or even of user experiences. Instead, design thinking is a problem-solving process appropriate for use by a wide variety of people. Design tools we'll learn more about, like job to be done, journey mapping, visualization, and prototyping, become as much a part of your toolkit as Excel spreadsheets for managers, or lesson plans for teachers, or even stethoscopes for nurses. But the role of individuals isn't the only thing that changes. The composition of the teams that drive innovation changes as well. When a group of faculty like myself meets in isolation with each other to design a new curriculum, then you know you're still in the old world. Homogeneous teams of experts like us have a big problem. We all share the same outlook. We're all teachers, and as a result, we share the same mental models. This has the advantage of reducing friction and maybe speeding up our decision making, but often at the cost of coming up with more creative solutions. We need to include a more diverse set of voices if we want more creative answers to our problems. The role of external stakeholders also starts to shift. Many of us were taught to believe that knowledge is proprietary. We should keep it to ourselves, and that relationships were instrumental. We understand citizens not as people, but on how they vote. Students are just vessels to be taught, and patients, bodies to be healed. Subcontractors are members of a supply chain, all elements of an organization's ecosystem that must be managed, kept at arm's length, and informed only on a need-to-know basis. But co-creation and open innovation play an important part in today's world. Trusted partners are engaged. Smart organizations seek strategic allies outside of their normal orbit, partners with similar intentions who bring missing competencies so that we can achieve a shared vision. In these partners, they look for interests that align and capabilities that are complementary. Such external partners represent new possibilities that we can invent together rather than constraints to be managed. So, in addition to who is involved in the innovation process, how we design changes as well. The nature of the innovation conversation itself begins to shift, influencing both the definition of problems and opportunities right at the outset and the differing expectations for the kind of answers that emerge at the end of the process. We first notice the difference to the conversation around the framing of the problem. In our traditional approaches to making decisions, defining the problem is hardly ever seen as a big part of the challenge. We don't even question the obvious definition of the problem that we start with. We treat the problem as though we're sure we know what it is, and our focus moves quickly to the more relevant, action-oriented issue, how to solve them. But attention to our definition of the problem is critical in design thinking, and we begin the process by doubting the correctness of our initial problem definition. It's a hypothesis to be tested. In fact, In our research, and in many of the stories we'll look at in this course, breakthrough solutions start with the redefinition of the problem itself. But wait, there's more. We use design thinking in the first place because we want better answers to our problems. But the change in our approach to how we handle solutions goes well beyond just looking for more creativity. In a more fundamental change, we're going to stop believing that one right answer even exists, or that it's ever possible to prove that any given answer is the correct one right at the start of the process. With design thinking, we always move multiple solutions into testing because we distrust our ability to predict success. We really don't know what works until we try it. Even more important, the best solutions often emerge during the process, and they take multiple iterations of testing and refining. They're more the result of learning than of getting it right the first time. Without the confidence to predict winners and losers, the size and the scope of the ideas considered worth pursuing changes as well. We've now entered the land of small bets and fail fast, terms we often hear these days. But these are more than just Silicon Valley platitudes. They reflect the reality of designing effectively and efficiently in complex environments with high uncertainty. So instead of big ideas scaled quickly, basic logic tells us to start small and defer scaling any one solution until its underlying assumptions have been thoroughly vetted. Now, it's not that we want ideas to stay small, we just believe in starting small. But nowhere is the shift between the old and the new world more striking than in the innovation conversation itself. Remember our earlier point about design thinking as a social technology? This is the heart of the matter. Instead of innovation beginning with solution identification, it will begin in the here and now with developing a deeper understanding of the lives of those we want to serve. In a complex world with diverse stakeholders, starting with solutions already in mind has far more serious downsides than just missing a few creative alternatives. It colors the entire dynamic of how the members of the conversation interact with each other. Because participants tend to bring solutions from their own worldview into the conversation, this sets up immediate debates among alternatives, with advocates for competing ideas each marshaling their own unique supporting evidence. The definition of the problem to start with, the alignment on assumptions, even the generation of ideas themselves, they're all taken for granted. In this scenario, the emphasis is on evaluation and selection. But in order to meet our wicked challenges, our focus needs to be on developing previously unseen possibilities rather than starting with the existing identifiable options. So, a significant investment must be made right up front to explore existing conditions as a precursor to the generation of ideas. For example, the extensive use of ethnographic research and design thinking is meant to make the idea generation process more user and more data-driven. In the design thinking methodology, the pursuit of insights precedes the pursuit of solutions. It's insights about the needs of those we're designing for and the design criteria they spawn that are the heart of user-driven idea generation. The only way to turn theoretical diversity into actual creativity is to change the nature of the conversation itself. By incorporating an increasing role for dialogue as well as debate, we introduce inquiry as well as advocacy. We need to learn to listen to understand rather than to argue, to listen for possibilities rather than weaknesses. Design thinking's tools for collaborative problem solving can help with the search for higher order solutions by not relying solely on the skills of the leader of the conversation, but instead by offering a structured process in which dialogue and inquiry occurs and where divergent views can be surfaced and explored.